welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, my guest today is a fractional CHRO. You guys are going to have to look that up because I didn't know what it is or what it was until I talked to her. But hopefully by the end of this episode today, you're going to find out what it is. Anyway, she was an executive an HR executive with more than 2 decades of experience in tactical HR and HR leadership, working with various companies and industries, from manufacturing to telecommunications. She says she has developed expertise and best practices in HR compliance, mentorship, leadership development, strategic planning, and change management. So those are all nice, fun, big words we're going to talk about today. But before we bring her on, we do need to do a shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt Mills is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to meet your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a shout out to our friend Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Productions. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, go to upbeatmediapro.com. All right, so my guest is already on here, which is exciting. She's waiting, and we're excited to chat with her today. Dustin Jones is the owner and CEO of EncompassHR LLC, a boutique fractional HR consulting and leadership development company that provides human resource consulting services focusing on HR strategy development, planning, implementation, and oversight. So welcome, Dustin. I am so excited to chat with you today and get you on this show.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's going to be fun. I had to say all these big words. I feel like they were big words.
They're not big words. They just make us look good. That's all.
I know. That's what I love about these bios. It's so fun when I go through them because I always look at them and I'm like, okay, I got to sort of kind of put these in how Jennifer would sort of talk, right? Like Jennifer's lingo, but I got to use their words because these are their words and this is their story. You know what I mean? And so it's always fun when I go through these to kind of look at the character of the human that's coming on here and how they transcend into their business and then sort of kind of put this in a way that we can make you shine a little bit, right? That's what it's all about.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So I want to open this up because I said that, that big word at the beginning, fractional CHRO. I had to look that up too. I was like, the first time you told me that, I'm like, okay, tell me what that even means because I'd never heard of it. I mean, I know HR, but I'd never heard of that title. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you are helping your clients.
Okay. So fractional is just a big word to basically say part-time. CHRO is Chief HR Officer. I was an executive for a long time, like you mentioned, and so I bring to the table a little bit more than just your normal part-time HR consultant. So my goal is to walk into an organization, and when I leave, it's better than when I got there. And I do that through helping them strategize on what they want their people needs to be. How do they want to meet those needs of their people? If they don't have people yet, how do they get people, and what's the strategy behind that? So I work with them to create their infrastructure. I work with them to make sure that they're compliant when they hire somebody. A lot of new business owners don't understand that there's a little bit of an art to hiring folks. And it's not just finding the right people, but it's making sure that those right people can work. And what does that look like? And how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect the employees? But then the overall part of HR for me when I go into an organization is just making sure that they're taking care of themselves as a business, but they're also taking care of their employees. There's a balance in HR between meeting the needs of the company, but also meeting the needs of the employee. And HR has had this really terrible kind of legacy from kind of the old school days of what did HR look like. And you get called to HR and you're being called to the principal's office, right? So we want to get rid of that stigma. And so again, my goal going into these smaller businesses or businesses that are like, I don't know what I don't know, help me, is just to be able to educate them so that they're more prepared as they grow their business so that they're not worrying about what's happening with their employees, right? And so that they have really great programs in place and processes in place that protect them and their employees. And they're able to use that to create a great culture around what they're trying to accomplish as a business.
I like that. And I think that what makes you unique is that you just said all of that, bringing both the company perspective and the employee perspective together, colliding the two. It's not just, hey, here's HR and we're looking out for our best interests. We got to find the right people, right? But it's also, no, we need to find the right people to fit the job. And how do we take into consideration the employee's best interest
Right.
into that?
Yeah.
So I like that you're coming from that angle, but I think what's also neat too about you, and we talked about this off camera. I know you and I spent like a few hours together. It was like, oh my gosh, we got to go. We're gonna like
Right.
be here forever. You're also John Maxwell certified, so I think that that really lends a whole nother, I guess, some integrity to what you do because you're also trained in leadership. And so talk a little bit about that because I know I know John Maxwell and I know what he's all about, but some of these people are like, who is this person?
Yeah. And that's a big question. So I joined John Maxwell before COVID. So I went to his international, it's called an IMC conference that he has twice a year, just because I knew that in where I was at in my career that I wasn't going to stay in corporate forever. And that I wanted to be able to teach leadership and I wanted to be able to train and take what I had already learned in the corporate world and expand upon that with other people and for other people and to try and get on as many stages as I possibly could. And leadership is something that I believe every single person in an organization can be a leader. You don't have to be a VP. You don't have to have a director title. I think that it's something that really is about the person and about what they're willing to put into the job that they have and to support the people around them. And so John Maxwell, one of my favorite books that he has is called Everybody Communicates, Few Connect. And communications for me is one of the biggest pieces of leadership. I don't think that you can be an effective leader if you don't communicate well. And so my bachelor's is in communications, and I have 3 more classes to finish my master's in communication. So I'm really excited about that. And John Maxwell has really kind of elevated that for me in a way that makes it simple. Communication is about telling stories. Communication is about connecting with other people on a personal level. And I think it scares a lot of people. And so having the resources that I have and being able to take those into businesses is fantastic. I love that. I love the ability to be able to facilitate change by making people think about how they communicate with other people. And I've done that through training. I do that through employee coaching. I had an opportunity to speak on a panel for leadership and mentorship at TCU last week that was just phenomenal. And all of these brilliant young minds that are just soaking up everything you have. And they don't think about what connection looks like in a digital age that we're in. Communication for our younger generations is emojis and acronyms and things that honestly I have to look up almost every week to figure out what does that acronym stand for, And so it's not real communication. And so my passion really, if you can't tell, is around being able to take that, couple that with leadership and provide that to the folks that are willing to listen and partake. Because I think that it's just such a huge benefit for anybody that wants to be in leadership at any level, that they communicate well. And John Maxwell has given me some tools to be able to do that, as well as, obviously my master's has given me some great background there too. So I love what John Maxwell teaches. He's been around for a long time. I have the ability to do training and coaching and masterminds and all that fun stuff around him, but he also allows me to kind of stay in that niche when it comes to that kind of training and leadership. And I absolutely love it. It's made me create my own mentorship through leadership program that couples the communication with the leadership, with the mentorship, and what does that look like as a whole package. And it's
Yeah.
something that I love.
Yeah, you said a lot of really good things, and I love John Maxwell as well. I think one of the favorite things that he says that always resonates with me is, and I think I shared this with you, is that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so his work has been in my life for probably 20 plus years, because I've been hearing from, when I was in the network marketing space, and we were talking about him from day one. So I've read several of his books. Several are on my bookshelf behind me right
Yeah,
now. And in fact, I'm working on a program right now, and some of the stuff I'm looking at is his work, because
yeah,
it is. He talks about leadership. But I think the other thing that I think you hit upon is the communication, because I'm like you. I think communication is so important. And I think so much breakdown is because of a lack of communication.
yeah,
There's a lot of just things that are assumed and not clear. And so I like that you brought that up, because I feel like in that space where you're working with people, whether you're working with a lot of people or just a few, a lot of the problems derive because there's not clear expectations. Things are not set,
yeah,
communicated, and then people are assuming things, what they're supposed to be doing, what they're not supposed to be doing. And people only ever really do what you tell them to do. Like what you expect of them is what people do. And if they're not clear on what they need to be doing, they don't know what to do.
yeah. No, I agree. I think that from an HR perspective, probably 80% of the issues that come through my door as an HR professional are caused by miscommunication. And it's a very simple fix of sitting down and having the conversation of, what did this person hear? What did this person say? And where did the miscommunication happen? I love that you brought up setting expectations. I did a performance management training this past week, and one of the biggest things came up was how you set expectations with employees, right? I mean, it's almost the same as how you set expectations if you have children, right? Your kids need to understand that you can't just put the dish in the sink. You need to put it in the dishwasher, which is literally 6 inches from the sink, right? So you have to set those expectations, and employees are no different. They want to know what they're supposed to do so that they can rise to the challenge of meeting those expectations. Nobody wants to be subpar. They don't want to not meet expectations, but if they don't know what those are, then they're never going to be able to advance and become the better employee that you want them to be. And I think that from a leadership perspective, especially from an HR perspective in leadership, is that leaders don't always necessarily take the time to set the expectations for their employees. They hire them, they put them to work thinking that they already know, and they don't always, right? So you said they make assumptions, and employees make assumptions, and so the ones that you're having those corrective action conversations with are the ones that don't understand the expectation of the job, or they haven't been given the expectation of the job, or maybe they've changed and that was never communicated, right? So we do ourselves as leaders a disservice when we don't have those two-way conversations with our employees to make sure they understand what the objective is,
Yeah.
what the outcome needs to be, and what the expectations of their role is.
Yeah. I'm learning from working with people. I feel like, because I've been working with people for a long time, but I feel like this is just like a repeated lesson that just keeps coming up. Don't assume anybody knows anything. Just don't assume that they know what they need to be doing or not need to be doing. Sometimes you just have to kind of reiterate those things, because I think it's like, as a coach, and I am a coach, that it almost has to, it's like they have to have that moment where they think of that idea and then they adopt it. You know what I'm saying? That's why
Mm-hmm.
they always talk about, like, when you have core values or you're like really working on this big purpose within an organization, it's hard to get everybody on board with that. It has to be their thing, like, right? It
Right.
almost has to be
Yeah.
their idea, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so I think you have to repeat things, just, that. And even like I just mentioned a minute ago, I'm working on this program, and I'm like, how many times do I really need to repeat something? But then I think, yeah, they don't get it. You got to keep showing it and
Got
keep
it.
showing it. I mean, you can tell them, they have to see it in practical application
Right.
and it happening. You know what I mean? And be told
Yeah.
this, shown this over and over and over. So you've hit on some really good things. So coming from the corporate, because you were in corporate for so long, and funny enough, I'm going to come back to that. We're going to pin that for just a second. But I had a gal on my show a few weeks ago that was also in HR and kind of doing a little bit similar, a little bit different. But one of the things she brought up was that in leadership, what she finds a lot of times is that when you're working with leaders, they get so dead set on their ideas that when somebody new comes and wants to bring the idea, they are just dead set, almost like they are addicted to being right, like it's their thing. And it was fun because talking about communication, she was actually talking about a way to address that so that you don't shut down the people that are coming to you with the ideas, because it's like a two-way street, right? Like the leader's like, I know this, I don't want to be questioned, right? And then the person coming to them with the idea is like, hey, I got this idea. And if they're shut down, it's almost like they're getting in trouble. And then they're like, they don't want to offer ideas
Right.
anymore. So
Yeah.
you're kind of hitting on the same stuff in a way with this whole idea about communication, and how do you, I think too, foster that open dialogue where you can create culture and community and have those open conversations where people know what they're supposed to be doing, but also don't feel afraid to come and bring
Yeah.
ideas and say, hey, something doesn't feel right here. Can we have a good discussion around it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're right. And so is she. And that part of your leadership is, a lot of that has to do with the culture in an organization and what kind of culture you want to foster. And if you have a leader that's like, nope, my idea, I'm not sharing it, I'm not going to listen to anybody else, you've essentially made that culture something where there's no innovation, right? There's no communication. You've taken all of these people who have and our workforce is so diverse now, generational, ethnic. You've basically shut down all of these ideas and this life experience that can lead to innovation in an organization if you have a leader that says, I don't want to hear it. The way I'm doing it's the way I'm doing it, it's the way I've done it always, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And companies will fail if you have that kind of leadership in an organization. And it's unfortunate, and that's why I think a lot of people jump ship, and why you have a lot of turnover in organizations is because leaders are not actually actively listening to the people that they've hired for their ideas and their innovation, because they've shut it down before it's even started.
Yeah. I imagine too, you're probably working with a lot of situations where you have those generation gaps where you've got, okay, like you got the people over here with the wisdom, right? Like they have the wisdom, they've been around the block. And then you got the innovators, these new people coming up. And somebody on a different show said the other day, to take stock of your new people that are graduating and coming out because they have innovation, they have ideas, right? And then you have to blend those two together where you get in that happy middle of, okay, I need to be open to some ideas, but over here on this end, I also need to understand the wisdom of these people that have been around for a while.
Right.
And there's certain nuances that they know,
Right.
So I'm sure you're probably getting that quite a bit.
Yeah, I get some of that. And people think HR is easy. It's not. It's something that companies look at and say, well, we need it, but I don't want to pay for it. And there's so much more to it. And your HR department really is your facilitator, right? It's your moderator within an organization if you allow them to be. And that's where communication comes in. That's why it's so important, so that you can bridge those gaps with your leadership and your new employees that are coming in. And yeah, I mean, I've had clients that have been like, well, we've been around for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and we've never had an HR department. And it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe now is the time to do that. And there's some pushback, and there's growing pains that happens with that. But good leaders will understand the value of change and the value of listening to those folks that are experts in their field, or that are new and have the passion and the ideas and want to innovate. And you just have to figure out how to mesh that all together within the core of that company and within the culture of the organization.
Yeah, I agree. And and I do. I think good leaders are open to understanding that, hey, I may not know everything. I mean,
Yeah.
really, when we think about leaders, I always say, where I came from, and I still believe this today, even though I'm not still working with those teams, is that good leaders want to be able to replace themselves. If they are a good leader,
Yeah.
they want to find people that are good. They want to find people that can help take their organization to the next level. They're not looking at this as a competition. They're looking at this as, hey, I want to be the best leader of my individual and
Right.
leader of my organization. So what do I need to add to make that happen?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So,
that's what succession planning is for. That's what mentorship is for. And not being afraid to be able to grow your team so that they're either successful and grow within your organization, or you're gonna help them be successful somewhere else. Like we have this
yeah.
stigma of, I want to grow my team, and I want to be that person as a leader. I'm okay to be replaced. I want to make sure that I leave an organization well. But I also want to make sure that my teams are growing. And that's not always meaning that they're going to stay with the company, right? And so growing, not just as a leader saying, okay, I'm doing everything I can. I want to grow, but it's okay if I need to be replaced, or if somebody can replace me. I don't want to be irreplaceable walking out of an organization, because you need HR in an organization, in my opinion. So if I leave for whatever reason, you need somebody to be able to come in and fill that. But you want to make sure that your teams are growing along with you and along with the company.
Yeah.
And I've got, great stories. I could talk forever about individuals on my teams who've grown within an organization or have stayed and grown with me and then have gone on to bigger and better things somewhere else because of the experience that they had with us or with my company or with me. And to me, that's very gratifying as a leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so it sounds like you're doing awesome things. And I know, like I said, we chatted off camera. So I know you are anyways, but our audience needs to know a little bit about what you're doing. And that's what this is really about. So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're going to still be talking about this, but I kind of want to get the backstory on this because we know that you came in from HR and did that for quite some time. And what I always like to find out is that transition from going from corporate to now you're solopreneur. You're doing your thing now. You're calling, you're making, deciding when you're working, with whom you're deciding to work
Right.
with, how you're going to do it, setting your core values. So what I want to know is, what was maybe the most challenging part of this transition from employee to basically now owner and employer?
Oh, Jennifer, that's a big question. So it goes back. Where do I want to start? My husband and I got married about 9.5 years ago, and my husband from day one has said, Dustin, you need to be your own boss, and you've done great things and you've been able to work in corporate for a long time, but I think you'd be really great at having your own business. And my biggest challenge for myself was figuring out when I was going to be okay financially. So I was very,
Mm.
very financially risk averse. I was a single parent for a number of years when my children were very little. My son was not even 2 years old, and my daughter he was 1 and she was 4 when I got divorced. And it was just me. I don't have any family in this part of Texas. And I saved and shrimped and scrimped on every single dollar for a long time. Came full circle, and that was fantastic for me. But the thought of being on my own, not having a stable income, scared me. It scared me a lot because I was very risk averse. I had months when I was single where I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent, or I didn't have enough money at the end of the month to buy groceries. And I was provided for. God provided for me. My church provided for me. My family stepped up from all the way in California. They would send me things that I needed, and that was fantastic because I did have a support system. But the thought of giving up a really nice paycheck and extra benefits and all of that stuff to go out on my own, not knowing if I was going to be successful or not, was terrifying. And when I finally started thinking about going out on my own, it was 2019. And it took me 3 years to finally say, no, it was 2018. And it took me 3 years to finally say, okay, I've had enough. And I got burnout. And my husband was like, look, I'm retired. We have an income. We can figure it out. And it's not like I haven't cut back on everything before. Like, I've done that before. So I had a conversation with my children and my husband. And so this is what I want to do. What do you think? And both of my kids, absolutely, mom, whatever you need to do, we can, turn off our internet. We can do whatever we need to do. And it didn't come to that, which was nice. But they really gave me the courage to be able to take the step and walk into my CEO's office and say, I'm not coming back. Right. And that was hard. It was hard. But, I'll tell you what, since that day, I have not lost one night's sleep worrying about my finances. I haven't done it because I knew that the step was the right step. And I wanted to be able to show myself and my children that I was capable of more than what I was doing, and that you're never too old to do something else. Right. And so that's the decision that was made. And that was kind of how I got to the decision to say, all right, I'm done with corporate. I'm going to take everything I've learned and I'm going to impart that to anybody that is willing to listen, and to, hire me and to make the decision to be better. And I haven't looked back, and I've hit just over a year of being out of corporate, and I would do it all over again. I mean,
That's
I'm
awesome.
so happy with my decision.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny though. I was kind of picking up on something you said a minute ago about that you haven't worried about, the income, because I was telling my husband this just the other day. There's something about when you're doing what you enjoy doing, like when you move into doing what you really feel like is, I guess, your calling, purpose, whatever you want to, claim that it is. As an entrepreneur, I feel like it just things just work out. We just wake
Yeah.
up every day and it's sort of like, well, I don't know where that's going to come from today, but it just somehow works itself
Yeah.
out, and I think it goes back to, there's a show I did, an episode I did a few weeks back with a guy, and I may have shared this with you, that his story is so remarkable. He's from Liberia and he came here on a scholarship, and was while he was in college, and this actually started previous before he was in college, but he really started doing the study work when he went into college. He was trying to figure out why he was this kid that was born in this poor country in the world, in this little village, and how did he end up there? And so he started doing this, it's kind of some philosophy study, and came across like Susan B. Anthony and Nelson Mandela and Gandhi, and realized that they all spoke different languages, they were different nationalities, but they all sort of resonated the same message about, if you want to do be better, then you have to change the world, you got to do it yourself, you got to be the person, right? And so, long story short, he created this 501c3 while he was in college, and he builds schools in Liberia. He has these built a school for 100 kids. I think the government tore it down. He raised the money, built another one. But this is where the crazy part of this comes in. I don't know if I can't remember if he's Ubering or if he's doing Lyft driving, but he does it 7 days a week, and he takes 50% of his money and donates it to his foundation
Wow.
to do these schools and to create jobs for women in this country. And he told me he is as happy he's the happiest he's ever been in his life. And so, and it was neat because he was sharing that story, and then he talked about this story about this woman riding in his car and how the husband was calling, and she just enjoyed talking to him because he's doing what his calling is, right? And he told me about, how he would get these $3 tips, and sometimes he would be really upset, but then he realized what his higher purpose is, and so he wouldn't worry about it. And so I think it goes back to your point about the money. When we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, where our calling is supposed to be, the things sort of kind of work out, and we don't feel that same amount of stress. And this is why I've said over and over that people will stay in a company for culture. It is not always about the money. If the money is good and the culture's crappy, they will jump ship eventually and
Yep.
go somewhere else.
They
Otherwise,
will.
they're sitting on cognitive dissonance, right?
Yep. Yep. No, you're absolutely right about that. People do not stay for the money. You can throw money at them and they'll stay maybe another 3 or 6 months and then they're out the door. And I can tell you every single time that I've had somebody come to me and quit and they've tried to counter and they say it's not about money and they end up staying, they're gone within 6 months every single time.
Right.
Because you're right,
Yeah.
people don't. And I stayed for as long as I did in corporate because of my children, because
Mm-hmm.
I was financially risk averse, and that was something that
Sure.
I had to really kind of put that to bed, and I had to decide, was that really the right reason to be in a business where I was stressed out every day, where I didn't get to spend the time
Right.
that I wanted to spend with my kids. And so now, this last year, I had spent more time with my children and my husband, making up for lost time from when they were little, right? And not everybody
Mm-hmm.
gets the opportunity to do that. So I realized that I've been given this gift, and I don't want to waste that. So, I love the fact that my children are both still home and that I have an opportunity to really kind of, get to know them in a different way. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was too afraid to take the risk. And it
Sure.
is. You leave a cushy, secure job for the unknown, and it's hard, but I know that I
Yeah.
will, build those wings as I rise, and I won't fall forever, and that's fantastic, and I love that, and I've learned a lot about myself through this process that I just didn't know what I was capable of before. And, you know, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. You learn a lot when you, and well, and when you have to make those transitions, from, because in similar ways, I can somewhat understand. I don't, like I said, you've heard me say this. I don't ever like to say how I know how somebody feels, because that's not a fair statement to say.
Yeah.
But I can say, I can certainly understand you making, being in that position for a long time and then transitioning, because I always talk about, like I was in this network marketing space for 20 something years. And then in 2018, I sort of navigated to this unknown and formed my LLC and went on my own. And it was all of a sudden this, I don't know what to do. Like I had had a business model. I had followed it. It is all I had done for 20 plus years. I started when my kids were little. And fortunately, I was very blessed that I was able to be with my kids. So I'm glad that you're getting that opportunity, because it's something I would never trade. But when I moved into this new space, all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, like I got to think about things I didn't think about before. I was still an entrepreneur, but I'm still thinking about different things. So I can get and like you, I kind of was sitting in that limbo stage for a little while. They were going, do I stay here? Do I move? Do I stay here? And I think I kind of, when I went into this program I'm building out, did the same thing. Like 3 years ago, I was talking about a program. I finally got the courage to say, okay, now is the time.
Yeah.
We got to do something. Like we got to make that move. And that's the best decision, is when you get the courage to move and make that decision.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of that is all the what we want, right? Like that's the freedom. That's everything you want on that other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it took me 3 years, and I'm loyal, I think, to companies to a fault. And that was part of the stigma around, well, if I leave, what are they going to think of me? And my husband's like, Dustin, does it matter?
Sure.
You've made an impact on the organization. You've made
Right.
some friends. You've kind of left a piece of yourself with that organization, and you need to do something different. And being in corporate for so long, it was starting to really take its toll. But I had this sense of loyalty that they had done so much for me when I was a single parent, and I needed to stay. And that finally, after, like I said, after 3 years, I was finally like, I don't need to. I don't need to do that. I need to do what's best for me. They, as an organization, do what's best for them, and now it's my turn. And so I took the leap, the blind leap, kind
Good
of
for
over
you.
the ledge. Yeah.
Good for you. All right. Well, to kind of, I guess, piggyback off that a little bit, or spin off onto a new direction here, I want to ask you, like, what advice, especially for moms, maybe like moms, because you and I are both moms and our kids are older. And I'm kind of, like I shared with you now, sort of kind of in that kind of sort of emptiness stage, which is a whole new thing, right? Especially when you've been, like in my case, been a mom for like 20 something years and been in their space like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm learning new things about myself now. It's like I have this freedom that I didn't have before. But maybe for our moms that are listening, because I know we have some of those that listen to this show, what advice would you maybe lend them if they're in that space where maybe they've been contemplating the next move? Maybe it's a career change. Maybe they're coming from being at home and going into the workforce, or leaving corporate and getting a job. Maybe some solid advice that you feel like has been helpful for you.
Um, Probably the biggest thing for me is don't worry about it so much. Um, take the leap. Like if you have something that you're passionate about, and so this is for the moms that are looking at maybe moving from a corporate to something different, like talk to your kids, let them know what's going on so it's not a surprise. But at the end of the day, taking that leap is such a better example than staying somewhere that you're not happy. Right. And I know as mothers and as parents, we really want to make sure that our kids are taken care of first. And so we forget to take care of ourselves, and we forget to put ourselves first sometimes. And sometimes you need to do that. And it's okay to be selfish in certain things, because you're giving a better example. And my kids saw that I wasn't the happiest at my last job for a long time. And they would see that. And I think now that they see that I'm doing something that really makes me happy, I mean, it makes everything better, right? The mom is kind of the heart of the family. And so if she's happy, the rest of the family is happy, I think. And so if you're in that space where you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it and just do it. right? And take that leap. For moms that are looking at, well, I've been a stay-at-home mom for a long time and I'm looking at getting back into the workforce, it's kind of the same thing. Um, you know, you want to do something else. You've raised your kids and you society tells us that moms going into the workforce don't have anything really to offer. You have everything to offer. You've raised children, right? You have done all of it. And you can translate that into a resume, and you can translate that when you have, you know, interviews. And there's a lot of ways to be able to say, yeah, I've got real world experience, and I may have a degree from 20 years ago, but I've done all of these other things in the meantime. And I can tell you, when I was hiring, I would love to see mothers that were going back into the workforce because they have a passion, they have innovation, they have, they're go-getters because they want to do something else. And same thing I would say to the moms going from corporate to something else. Don't overthink it. I overthought everything and it delayed it for so long. And I keep thinking, if I had taken this step 3 years ago, what would it look like today? Well, I'll know that in 3 years, right? So just take the step, take the leap. Make sure, my biggest thing was making sure my kids knew what I was doing, because that was important for me to have that conversation with them. So have that conversation, and probably 9 times out of 10, your kids will be like, yeah, mom, go for it. Like, we're behind you. Go for it. Right. But don't hesitate. Don't waste time overthinking it.
I think a lot of dreams get squashed from overthinking. And I'm not one to be I'm not worried about risk as much. And that may just be because I've been in the entrepreneur space for,
Right.
A long enough time that I've kind of have like broke myself enough of it, but, dealing with people, even on just little things, even like just, if they're going to take up an exercise program or just get a coach for that matter, there's a lot of internal dialogue that comes up when we're making those big decisions, right? Like that are drastic. I mean, I joke and say it's not like if we go buy a can of tuna, it's like $2. We're like either going to buy the can of tuna or not. We're not going to have a whole dialogue in the grocery
Yeah.
store about why you should buy the tuna or not buy the tuna, right? We're just
Right.
going to do it. But when there's a bigger risk involved, then that dialogue comes up. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm with you. The overthinking can be a lot of hassle, and then we end up talking ourselves out of things because we need that confirmation bias. So we find reasons why we shouldn't do it to prove the fear that we're really
Yeah.
having of not
Yeah.
doing it,
Right.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. We as women have a tendency to do that to ourselves. We self-sabotage a lot. And that comes from just hesitancy, and it comes from, self-doubt and maybe not a lot of self-esteem. And we as women need to work on ourselves so that when we make a decision that we don't second guess ourselves. And
I agree.
the other part of that too is finding your tribe. Like for me, when I went out on my own, I found an organization that was other women. Some of them had been in corporate. Some of them have always been entrepreneurs, but they welcomed me in a way that said, what do you need and how can I help you? And so all of these things that I didn't know about learning about owning a business, they've kind of taken me in and said, how can we help? And it's genuine. And I love that. And when you find your tribe of people, especially other women that will support you for no ulterior motive other than I want to help you, right? That has been amazing to me, because being in an executive position in a corporate office in corporate America as a woman, it still gets very lonely in those positions because you don't have the kind of support that you would hope to have. And I wanted to make sure I was supporting my team, the females on my team specifically, in a way that was not threatening. And it was, I really do want you to grow because I want you to be better. I want you to be a really good version of yourself. And how can I help you do that? Coming out and going into entrepreneurship on my own and finding women that were like that back to me. I mean, it's been such a blessing. But if you're going to go out on your own, find that tribe, find that group of women that are going to support you. Yeah, it's important.
I think finding the tribe is huge, because you're right. It's so funny because I sort of feel like, having come from the pink bubble of Mary Kay for as long as I did, I was kind of in this in a bubble, right? And so I didn't really understand corporate. I mean, I worked in corporate for a short while, but I really didn't understand the dynamics because I wasn't there very long. And then I hear these stories and I'm just like, no, 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 not doing it. Because I didn't have to. I mean,
Yeah,
it was not everything was rainbows and unicorns all the time. I mean, we did sometimes have people in there that we had to deal with that,
of course. Yeah,
were issues because you always are going to have one or two of those. But for the most part, we were always in a supportive culture where we could find pretty much a mentor at any time. We could attend any group, meeting that we wanted to, irregardless of whom it was that actually enrolled
that's
us in the
awesome.
company.
Yeah,
And that was our adoptee program. And it was just a given that that's how we operated. So I just kind of that's how I've modeled everything I do, even like the way I operate my business. I've just modeled everything after that. And so then I hear these stories, and of course my husband's been in corporate for as long as we've been together. And I hear these stories and I'm like, oh my goodness, like why?
yeah,
Why? Dude, why? But it always comes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. It's some kind of breakdown of communication.
yeah.
Something's not clear. Core values, that's a big one. I feel like core values is a lost art,
It
you
is.
know?
It is. And you can, a lot of businesses love to tout their core values, but do they really practice them when they're supposed to? That is
Bingo.
always the question. And the answer, probably 50% of the time or more, is no, they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would probably agree with you on that from what I hear from listening to people that I know that work in corporate. So, well, you are doing awesome stuff. I'm so glad we got you on here. I want to do a few fun questions for you. We'll get
Okay.
unserious now. We'll get off of all the business stuff. And this is a fun part of the podcast. We go two directions. We do all the serious stuff and then we have to have a little bit of fun at the end just to mix it
Yeah.
all up and mess it up.
Let's do that.
So this will be the
Go.
fun. They're supposed to be rapid fire. But
Okay.
I always say we just let it go. They're never rapid fire. All right, so let's start off with this. First concert that you ever attended.
First real concert with Garth Brooks in 1996 in San Diego, California.
How fun! I've seen Garth Brooks too.
He is
He's
phenomenal. Yeah. It was
yeah,
a fun concert.
he's a good showman. I think I saw him. It was before COVID, but it's been within the last like 10 years, I want to say. But it was I can't remember when we went. I got tickets from somebody and we went and saw him. But yeah, he's an excellent performer. So yeah, I always
Yeah.
feel like if you like that kind of stuff and you go see Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite guilty pleasure food. The one thing that you just like or like I love, gotta eat it sporadically.
Mint chocolate chip malt with extra malt. I don't do ice cream because it does not work with me very well, but man, every once in a
Right.
while I'll get a craving and I gotta have it. So I do it anyway. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
That's me
From
too. I don't
31
eat
flavors.
I love ice cream. Yeah. I'm hung up right now on I found these keto yogurts in the store. So they're
Ooh,
basically low sugar yogurt and they're vanilla. And then I make my own low carb granola with like low carb protein
yum.
powder
Yeah.
and the nuts. I am that's my dessert. I am like hung up on this freaking yogurt and granola right now. It's like every day. I just made another batch of granola
Oh,
today.
that's
I'm like
so good. That
so
sounds
good.
so good.
That's like my one, like the other night, it was my birthday last weekend. So we decided I actually had I don't do gluten. And I snuck and had a croissant roll that day. Well, then that night, I'm like, okay, it's my birthday. We're going to go do this. I did not feel good after I did it, but we went up to the racetrack. And you know how the racetrack, they have the different ice cream, the
Oh,
yogurts, and then you
yep.
can get all the toppings.
Yep.
Well, thankfully, the toppings were pretty much gone when I got there. But I came out, I had a bowl. I had birthday cake, sugar
Oh my
cookie,
goodness.
and vanilla all in the cup of
Oh,
ice cream.
that's insane. That's insane. Well, happy birthday. I didn't realize it was your birthday last week.
Thank you. It was good. It
Awesome.
was like my one. I probably won't have ice cream now for another 6 months. Like it was my one day of yogurt, and it was like what yogurt, frozen yogurt glory.
Right?
So, but
Yeah.
I'm like you. I don't eat a lot of. I can't do a lot of like. I have to be careful with dairy and certain foods because I just
Yeah.
don't feel well after I eat them. So it's not worth it half the time.
Yeah. I
All
agree.
right. So favorite travel destination spot.
Um, That's a hard one because I like a lot of places. I love Boston. I love Washington D.C. And then anywhere with a beach, like a real beach,
And
like you know,
yeah,
Texas always touts Galveston, and it's the Gulf Coast. I want a beach. So
you want a real
anywhere with a
beach.
beach. But those are my favorite places. Like, and of course San Diego because I get to go home and see my family. But in the U.S.,
Sure.
I'd love to go back to Sicily. My husband took me there for our honeymoon, and there's nothing like opening up your doors and being right on the Mediterranean, and having as much wine as you
Yeah.
want and as much pasta as you want, and that was a fabulous place. But yeah, those are some of my fun
Very
destinations.
cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. Well, I like San Diego. I've been there a few times, like it there. And I am with you on the beach. I could go pretty much anywhere that there's a
yeah,
beach.
me
So,
too.
and yeah, I would be happy. I'd be totally happy there. All right. My last fun question I like to ask, and it's so corny, corny, corny. What's in your Amazon cart right now?
Oh, way too many things. There's so many things. Oh my gosh, dresses and parts to fix my husband's truck and baby stuff for my bonus daughter is having a baby in December, so I've got stuff in there, Harry Potter themed onesies. I mean, come on. But yeah, way too many. I think there's like 200 items in my cart. Yeah, it's
Oh my
terrible.
goodness. I don't have that many, but you do kind of sound like me. I put stuff in there and then you know what's so funny? I don't know if I shared this with you. So my son has his account tied to mine. So he can do he has it like he's traveling. So he'll have it shipped wherever he's going and he uses his
Yep.
card, he pays for it, but then he can use the Prime because he has it attached.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll go in there sometimes to order something and I'm like, what is all this stuff in my like what is all this? Like weird stuff
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Or like it'll send me the notification and saying something's being delivered. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I did not order that. And then I have to go in and look, oh, that was my son's order, So
Yeah.
I'm constantly having to like save things, like move them over, put them in the save for later
Yeah.
pile so that I
Yeah.
make sure they don't come in my order
Yeah.
stuff. So,
I have a
but
lot of those.
that's my favorite.
Yeah. I love that. My husband, I'll get stuff too because it goes to my email account because it's my Prime account, and he'll have ordered something new for his truck, or he'll have ordered something new for one of his guns, or and it's like I didn't order. Did you order something? Because I didn't order anything. But yeah, I've
Right.
way too much in my Amazon account for sure. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
unfortunately,
Well, my husband has his, go
nope,
ahead.
my daughter has picked up that, so she'll get a package like every other day in the house. And I'm like, really? Stop. So I've taught my children bad habits with Amazon.
Amazon is I tell you, it's a convenience. I mean, it's like we ran out of pancakes. We buy this Birch Bender's pancake mix and we ran out the other day. And I'm like, okay, let me pull my phone out. I'll just order it on Amazon. Oh, it's here the next day.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's,
It's convenience. It's fantastic.
I, I agree. I agree with you on this. Well, this has been amazing. I'm so glad that we got to get you on here today and talk about what you were doing. If our audience wants to find out a little bit more about you, your company, where do we want to send them?
So my website drops this week, Thanksgiving week. So it is encompasshrllc.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn either at Dustin Jones or at EncompassHR LLC.
Hey, and congratulations on your website. How
Thank
exciting.
you. I am super excited. Found an amazing developer and I can't wait for it to launch.
It's gonna have a whole new pizzazz to it. It's gonna be
It is.
sassy.
It is. I'm
That's
really
awesome. Well,
excited. It's going to be fun.
very cool. Very cool. Well, this has been fun. We do want to say to our listeners, of course, if you enjoy our show, please be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes, Facebook. We can't do this without you. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. And we want to leave you guys with our final parting thought. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.